All right. Hello, welcome. Rusty here, back after a while, and going to be doing live research on an interesting topic. It has gained momentum over the years, and I don't want to turn this into like a documentary because there are clearly much better made ones and much worse made ones out on the tube right now, but what I kind of want to do is just kind of on a whim, kind of freestyle to some degree, just kind of go over some thoughts and some ideas of the public and myself, and go over some examples and talk about them to some degree. And at the very end, I just kind of want to leave you guys with the thoughts of an interesting individual that I just recently found out about. And it kind of is the reason, the inspiration behind this, and kind of re-sparked my intrigue into this entire topic. So whoever you are, wherever you are on this crazy spinning rock that we're told, I hope you're doing well, afternoon, evening, morning, wherever you're at. Breakfast, lunch, brunch, dinner, anywhere in between, snacking, chilling, enjoying your Sunday. So yeah, I'm just gonna kind of walk us through, do some screen sharing, and it's going to be different than my old streams. And that's why I kind of wanted to put out that video last night, to kind of going into detail just to like what's been going on in that. So yeah, if you don't know where I've been, what's going on, and like why I haven't been checking into my channel much other than popping in a random video game thing from time to time, yeah, just check out that video from last night. But anyway, we're going to jump into it. It's been a while, and this topic is extremely fascinating. So what I'm going to do is we're going to go through some ideas, some thoughts, some theories, and I'm just going to kind of walk through, kind of verbally speak out what's going in my mind as I'm kind of just generally perusing and researching and checking stuff out. So the Mandela Effect, if you're aware of this, which I'm assuming most people that wander upon this video are going to be, is an interesting phenomenon that kind of was spawned about 10 years ago. Or not 10 years ago, about 2010 is when it officially. See, this is an interesting thing. I'm jumping ahead. There's some interesting, one guy found this really interesting anomaly, and it could just be a hiccup, an error or something, but we're going to get into that in a bit. But it's basically about kind of searches and ideas and people, like the whole when did the term actually come to fruition. And I'm going to use this one video, it could be chalked up to all sorts of errors, but I have one example that I found of some interesting stuff that points to this may have been a thought or a process or something, or designed or something way before the 2010 when this person, which we'll get right into here. So I'm going to be using a few different websites, not too many, but basically I have the main MandelaEffect.com and debunkingMandelaEffect.com, because I'm not going to, I personally don't have a full-fledged decision on what's going on. I think it's extremely premature to either say yes or no, but at this point, people have combined and accumulated quite a bit of information, and it's interesting to look at kind of both sides and keep an open mind to what may or may not be actually happening. So if you don't know what the Mandela Effect is, it's an interesting phenomena that was coined by a lady named Fiona Broome, and she is the creator of this website, and she is an author slash paranormal researcher, enthusiast, whatever term you want to use. And according to her, she was at a convention and a group of them were randomly discussing things, and the topic of Nelson Mandela, which if you're younger, that's a big, broad subject, and I highly recommend just Googling that and going looking who and what was going on with him. But essentially, he was imprisoned and in Africa, and people remembered him dying in prison when the actual truth of the matter is he was released and became president and then died later than what people were remembering. And not everyone was remembering. It was an interesting division. And so Here we go. This lady in 2010, Fiona Broom, she launched this website, MandelaEffect.com, using the new phrase Mandela Effect to describe an emerging phenomenon. It was mostly a hobby site, but I was considered writing a book about the subject because she is an author. And that's something that I always kind of keep in mind when I'm getting into this stuff. A lot of these people are authors, and I mean, in the long run, they are selling stuff. So as this began, she essentially created a website, and more people, a group of like-minded people, continued to visit the website, and they shared anecdotes, related data, and it started to get a critical mass. Now, this is where it gets interesting for me. The Berenstain subject went viral, and that's where I first stumbled upon this. It says by late 2015, this site required 4 to 6 hours work per day just to manage comments. About 2 years ago, I can't remember exactly where or what, but I was introduced to the Mandela Effect strictly through the Berenstain Bears. And I'll tell my personal anecdotes with that real quick. I specifically remember it different. And that's what really caught my attention. In this reality, what's occurring right now, it is spelled Berenstain. And I specifically remember it very differently. I remember it like this. Let's pop this up really quick. I remember it actually slightly different than this, but I remember an Stein. Now, this image, I feel, is photoshopped, and that is a big problem with this phenomenon, because if this phenomena has weight and is real, we are in an age when people can manipulate photos with such ease. It's so easy to just fake people out, and that is a huge problem with this phenomena, because it's mainly based off memory, which is fallible, and images. And generally, images are easily edited, so when it gets into and then you have your final layers, the history books, and who writes these history books. That's a whole can of worms all there. So this is how I got into it, but I remember slightly different. I remember it actually with only one E. I remember Bernstain. And so that's what really caught my attention. And at the time, I was going to work and talking to people about this, and people at my work weren't familiar with it, and they found it interesting as well. And most of them remembered it the same way I did. Maybe not specifically with either one or two E's, but they specifically remembered it Stein. And I remember at the time, I think it was the video that I first stumbled upon that was just specifically talking about the Berenstain. And he said that he remembers it in the time when he was learning it, reading those books. His classmates and him were also at that time of maturity to where you start to kind of understand what racism is, and they were aware of more of the different cultural names and stuff like that. And he specifically remembers thinking it sounded like a Jewish name because it was Stein. And he's not racist. It was just at that time, whenever that is, 6, 7 years old, you start to kind of, because of your culture, you start to unfortunately differentiate people through the way they look and the names, and you're not necessarily putting your ideologies and hate towards those people. You're just becoming more aware of these cultural differences and such in our society. And so I thought that was pretty interesting too, because those are memory knots. Those are ways that if you can correlate a certain memory with something else within your memory, you basically lock that to a degree that makes it a lot more easier to retain and not get pushed back with the billions of things in your brain. There's a lot of memory techniques to where you try to you can make songs, or you correlate a certain word or a certain definition of that word with something else, like a bluebird or whatever. You get the gist of that. And so that just really stuck out on me. And then I started researching into it. And okay, so before we get into the prior research, I want to talk how I first accidentally stumbled upon this phenomenon, not knowing at the time anything about Mandela Effect and thinking that it was more psychological, and that was with Star Wars. Okay, so here's Mandela. If you're not familiar who Nelson Mandela is, please look into him. It is an immense story and big part of history, world history in general. So yeah, this stuff can blow your mind, and once you start thinking about it, there's a phenomenon within our brain that releases dopamine, and when you're confronted with your reality being shattered, that's part that can happen within your brain. You can get a dopamine release, and so conspiracy theorists and other people that constantly are chasing this idea that everything is wrong and that there's some other way that everything is really happening, they get these releases, and can become addicting. And that's a fascinating kind of just pin to put into this whole mosaic of what is going on with the actual chemical process of when we remember things, or when we expose or think we're exposing parts of reality that we feel are inconceivable to the normal person, and that we have somehow cracked the veil and are looking through it. That is an interesting thing. I am not versed enough within psychology or biology to even try to touch into that, but that is something that I wanted to throw into the dopamine chasing. It's the same high that extreme athletes with bungee jumping and parachuting, and it's very similar. It's this mind-blowing sensation, and that is really a chemical process that's going on, and it can be addicting. So yeah, getting back to my accidental, unknowingly getting into it was with Star Wars. Okay, so here, I kind of wanted a slideshow and kind of thought like a way, but this was supposed to be going on while I'm kind of talking. So yeah, what's going on with this? Bernstein or Berenstain? But really, really quickly, I just want to get into this, because this is how I accidentally found out about what's going on with confabulation and other interesting psychological possibilities as to why we don't remember things wrong. I remember one morning getting up and getting ready for work or whatever I was doing. I had the TV on, and it was the local news, and they were talking about how there's songs that we sing wrong, the titles, and there's quotes from movies that we say wrong. And their example at the time was Luke, I am your father, because everybody has said that all over the place. And this is how I accidentally found out about it, not knowing that it was termed the Mandela Effect, but more of the psychological aspect, because I found out that day, 10 years ago, 15, whenever that was, that the actual line is, "No, I am your father." And I got the dopamine high then, not knowing anything about it. I was just like blown away, like, no way. Everybody always says Luke. It's been parodied in other movies. But in our reality, what has happened is it says, "No, I am your father." So that is how I accidentally got into this a few years before stumbling upon the actual Mandela Effect and its websites. And then the Berenstain Bears versus the Bernstein Bears, however you want to pronounce it. This is what woke me up, for lack of a better term, to this new phenomena that's being cataloged and to some degree scientifically checked, because there are people calling it out and there are people who are trying to look at it actually legitly. And yeah, the Berenstains versus the Berensteins. Even this little clip from The Simpsons has it different. So is this evidence? Is this evidence of what? So the Mandela Effect, here we go. We're going to get back into this now. Where are we at? Okay, I have to use a different one there. So real quickly, before I get into the debunking ideas of what's going on, this is what the Mandela Effect.com has proposed for the theories. And they believe there are so far two leading theories that we are either sliding between parallel or similar realities, or timelines or dimensions or universes. So you can really that they're simplifying an extremely massively mind-numbingly large philosophical debate, like right there. Or secondly, that we visited holodecks or may be in one right now that have some glitches or some sort of computer simulation, or that gets a little crazy there too, because I mean, I'm not technologically inclined to come up with great ideas right there on the spot, but the holodeck is just a real simplified version, but it could be anything along those lines. But they're trying to, according to this website, the concepts are broad, and they're trying to narrow the possibilities down through location-specific memories, years. And then on that note, a few scientists have privately questioned whether certain quantum science tests, including CERN projects, may have affected the fabric of reality. And that's what I'm going to end this kind of with. We're going to go through, I'm going to talk a little bit more about possibilities of what's going on in our brain. And we're going to go over a handful of interesting examples, and I'm going to talk about the ones that really stick out to me. And there's a couple that really stick out. And besides Bernstein and Bernstein, I don't even know how to say it anymore. It's throwing me off. And yeah, and then end it with just a little bit of my super layman understanding of what is occurring at the CERN facility with the Hadron or Hadron Collider, however you want to pronounce that, and end it with the thoughts of an interesting individual that I just stumbled upon. So yeah, let's oh yeah, that's something very interesting. We'll maybe get that into the end there. So an explanation for why going into like the debunking side, I guess, better way to put it, common explanations. And this is where it really gets interesting, because I mean, we know the brains aren't perfect. We're essentially uploading or downloading data onto miniature sacks of meat, and it's crazy enough alone that somehow information is getting written on this gelatin substance within our skulls. I mean, so is there possibility for error? I mean, it's got to be. Our brains are so complex, we just don't know. But I'm not going to rule out. You see, before I get any farther, I don't say yes or no to the Mandela Effect being real, and I don't say yes or no to the Mandela Effect being all in a misunderstanding of what's something that's in our head. I think there's more to it. I think it's not as simple as two solutions. I think it's way more complex than that, and that's why I'm doing this. And I feel that I'm not the only person that is trying to look at it objectively and logically, and just not say yes or no. Just approach it open-minded and present information that I find and information that other people find. And I find that's part of the mistake with some of these YouTubers that are making like daily or weekly Mandela Effect videos. Is it's just like a sales advertisement. It doesn't seem to be too much thought. It's more just like, what can I find that might be? And one of the more common things you're going to stumble upon is it's a lot of advertising logos. And I just, where am I going to look up? I'm sure you can look up to some degree when logos change, but maybe you can't. Maybe it's not as easy as that. Maybe you have to go to your like Library of Congress or something. But I know logos change, and throughout my journey, I found a very interesting one of Subway, because I personally worked at a Subway years back, and I remember the logo pretty well, but it had 4 different examples, and I was just thinking, man, it's too easy because I remember at my Subway, they didn't necessarily change the logos, but they were constantly changing deals and changing little ideas and like constant little fidgeting and playing with stuff. So I really don't see it out of the realm of possibility that a lot of the logo ones that people think are crazy are mistakes, but there are certain logos that we'll get into that I can't see people making mistakes, and some of them have been around for so long, and some of them Some of them are better examples in that subway where there's like 4 different logos. Some of them will really only have 2 logos. And according to this current timeline, the certain logo that is now currently in our timeline, in some of the cases have been around for like 100 years. So that's interesting when you get those, but those aren't every logo. You'll really start to see when you go through this that it there's a big, like I said earlier, it's the people that the charlatans that like to mess things up, they're eating up the Mandela effect. It's too easy to manipulate. It's too easy to just take out. We'll get into that with the examples, but there's too easy to just Kit Kat. Kit Kat's a good one because it's just a dash, and apparently that dash never has been there or has been there, vice versa. And it's like it's so small, so minute. We'll get into that in a bit, but I just want to go over this. I kind of want to read this bit. So if you're watching this later and you're not into this, you can skip through this. If you don't want to watch this now, just go take a break. But I do want to read this because I do think it's important. I mean, we only have, according to the main website, a couple main theories, which can't really get too much behind. But we have years of trying to figure out the brain. Now, do we have it figured out? No, that's why there's so many possibilities. Clearly, we don't know which one it could be, if any of them at all. But this just really shows you how fallible the human brain is. The misinformation effect. That misinformation affects people's report of their own memory. I believe this to be a key factor in many Mandela effects. Simply seeing the claim from another person may sway recollection of your own memory, especially if you lacked concrete or deep memories or connections to the subject to begin with. Yeah, I've experienced this, and I think most people have, and I think that's kind of the mob mentality to where you just get influenced by people. Confirmation bias. This is a big one. This is a big one in general, and this is really what's fueling the website and certain alternate medias. And I remember reading an interesting test done on this years and years ago, but the tendency to search for, interpret, or recall information in a way that confirms one's belief or hypothesis. Those seeking Mandela effects will often be more easily persuaded by other claims, and with such claims they may agree with, they will often discard any countering evidence or claims. And I mean, that is just in general, not just this, but everything. Confirmation bias, I think, is a big human flaw that, we can't really address. It's hard. It's one of those hindsight is 2020 kind of deals. So misattribution of memory. I don't know if it helps to highlight this stuff or not. Maybe I won't. When information is retained in memory, but the source of the memory is forgotten. This is sometimes present in Mandela effect, where we forget where we know something from or why it's familiar, possibly leading to incorrect attribution of the original source, confounding the confusion factor. Yeah, I think that misattribution of memory and the misinformation effect probably go hand in hand, or probably part of the same phenomena. Cryptomnesia, a form of misattribution where a memory is mistaken or for imagination because there is no subjective experience of it being a memory. Many Mandela effects may have started out as imagination rather than real memories. I saw an interesting video about the brain and stress, and that more complicated things, the brain, we say our brain hurts. It's the brain will stress, and sometimes it's easier for the brain to remember certain things. And I think a good example of this is the Mr. Rogers one. That's a picture I just remember now I should have got, but in the Mr. Rogers song, he says, "It's a beautiful day in this neighborhood," I think it is. And in our reality, or in my remembrance, I remember it's a beautiful day in the neighborhood, a beautiful day in the neighborhood. But according to history, in this reality, it's a beautiful day in this neighborhood, or it's not how I remember it, and it's also just doesn't sound right. It's also clunky writing. So the brain may have remembered that the versus the this easier just because the sounds more natural. So that's an example of a possibility. Now, is that what is happening? We really don't know. I have too many things. I can't so you know, I tried to fire up my damn Hangouts in Firefox, and I had to install a plugin, and the plugin was taking forever. So I just fired up Internet Explorer instead because I knew I could get on real quick. So that's why I prefer Firefox, but I'm having to use Internet Explorer to stream. All right, so misconceptions. Facts cannot change. However, they can be revealed to be untrue or non-factual. Thus is the case with many things throughout human history. As science and technology progresses, so does our understanding of the world around us. Unfortunately for us, our brain is not always built to accept new ideas and new facts. People who either intentionally or unintentionally, they do not know the new information, can also spread these misconceptions, thus perpetuating these erroneous beliefs into society. This is how misconceptions are born, and at the heart of many Mandela effects. Yeah, I think that is a big one in general. I mean, the world is so huge right now. I mean, not now, it's been huge forever, but with the internet, the interconnectivity and the speed that to which information is propelled across the globe, I mean, it just misconceptions will not be helped with that at all. All right, so a couple more real quick. False memory is a psychological phenomenon in which a person recalls a memory that did not actually occur. It is often sided with and has a strong connotation to some type of trauma, such as sexual abuse and post-traumatic stress disorder. While it would be quite rare for Mandela effects to originate as false memories, it could fit in those lesser known or less believed ones, as the scenario would typically be very specific to the person with the false memory. Because of the trauma involved with these cases, the subject would be quite resistant to accept any new evidence in opposition of their beliefs, as their brain has literally implanted this idea as a counter to protect itself from mental harm, thus introducing cognitive dissonance. Cognitive dissonance, not an explanation per se, but rather a byproduct. It is one of the main causes for so many people to be so resistant to evidence and ideas contrary to their beliefs and memory. Cognitive dissonance can be the mental stress or discomfort experienced by an individual who is confronted by new information that conflicts with existing beliefs, ideas, or values. Please note the use of can be, as there is many purists that don't accept the broader definition and scope of cognitive dissonance applying to memory versus reality. And for this last one, for a possible explanation, I think is maybe one of the more just sound and makes more sense if you want to apply the Occam's razor. Confabulation is the disturbance of memory which produces fabricated, distorted, or misinterpreted memories about the world without the explicit or conscious intention to deceive others. I think that's very important right there. I think a lot of it, if it is down to a psychological error, I think it wasn't some sort of nefarious act. I think these people fully believe this. So people who confabulate in this way produce incorrect memories about the most trivial details, as seen with most Mandela effects, but range up to more complex fabrications as well. They are generally extremely confident in their recollection and will typically resist any contradictory evidence, possibly related to cognitive dissonance, easy for me to say, in this manner. All right, so yeah, is it some sort of crazy, beyond human comprehension, universe and time, something's going on? It really could be. Is it our brain misfiring, showing us how not very well of an actual computing device it is? That's very possible as well. So let's get into some of the pictures, and then I'm gonna kind of talk about this. See, this is why I find the Star Wars one really interesting, because there is a clip of James Earl Jones, the voice of Darth Vader, on the Today Show, saying, "Luke, I am your father." Even he remembers it. "Luke, I am your father." So, that's really intriguing. Yeah, see, "Luke, I am your father," but according to this reality, according to this history, it is, "No, I am your father." No! So it's a no and not Luke. So Mandela effect. How about you just admit you don't remember things, right? I think I can easily admit that because my head has been knocked around and I've just never had good memory to begin with. I remember as a kid, before any sort of influence of any sort of big boy stuff, I still had a bad memory. My dad would get on me about it, but yeah, is this what's really going on? I don't know. This is the one right here that is, I have a possible explanation as to why I remember it differently, but still, I do not ever remember C3PO having a freaking silver leg until recently. And it's been a while since I saw the remakes, but I I don't vividly remember this, but I have a pretty 80% memory of watching the remake and being like, oh, that's one of the remakes. They made his leg silver for some reason. And I remember thinking like, why would they have done that? Did it have something to do with when Chewbacca is like carrying him around on his back because he's all in pieces or something? I just remember thinking about years ago. And and this is one that I was like, it has to be the remake. So I looked into it, and it's not. It's been around since the beginning, and this one is one of the ones that really kind of is unsettling to me because I really remember I had the toy. I had all these toys when I was a kid, and I'm 39. If you don't know, I had them when they came out, like the original toys, and I would look at these things. Not only would I play with them, but I was I'm somewhat of an artist, and I would just stare at these things. And I don't remember him ever having a silver leg. So I looked into this. I was like, it has to be the remake. And so I was able to dig up a picture. See, I don't know when this one is, but I was able to dig up an album cover picture right here. And this is from like the late 70s, early 80s. And he has a silver leg, okay? And so why? Why? He has a silver leg. Now, look, this is how I think maybe I'm not remembering and other people are remembering, because you can see in this picture clearly it's not as stand out. It does not stand out nearly as much because of the sand on Tatooine. So if you're staring at his eyes or his chest and you're looking around here, it could be easy to miss that. But I had the toy. I just don't remember it on the toy. So this, in this reality, this is an old album cover. He has a silver leg right there. So this is one of the ones that has really kind of caught me. And I, in my own memory, I mean, I go back to the toys every time, and it's very possible my pops down in Southern Colorado, he might have a freaking some of these. I know he had a few boxes of some of my old stuff, and it's been so long that he might have it. But that would be crazy if I went down there and dug it out and had a silver leg still. All right, so here's another one, Jiffy. I remember it, Jiffy, but it's Jif, and it's never been Jiffy. It's always been Jif. And why is that? Are we mixing it up? Isn't Skippy another brand that's pretty popular in the United States? Maybe Skippy and Jiffy, people just making it up, or is it the term? We'll have it done in a Jiffy. But yeah, I thought it was Jiffy peanut butter. Now, this is where I can understand my memory being extremely fallible for this because it's peanut butter. I'm not sitting and staring at the freaking logo, and I'm not recreating action scenes in my backyard with it. So yeah, this one doesn't get me as much. It's not one that sticks out. And yeah, I could have easily not remembered it correctly. But here's a big one, Febreze. I'm sorry these pictures aren't very big. I didn't, like I said, this isn't a long production. This is literally me just grabbing some pictures and looking up some research and kind of doing it on the fly and talking. So yeah, Febreze. I don't specifically remember this one, but people remember it with two E's. And according to this reality, it only has one E. Now, is that a case to where the word breeze, it's just, it stresses our brain, this word? It's just weird. It looks different. So our brain remembers it this way to make it more easy. Maybe. All right, Fruit Loops, right? People remember it spelled Fruit Loops, spelled like the UI, but in this reality, see, this one I don't remember. I honestly don't remember. I ate Fruit Loops growing up, but it was never like one of the big ones. I'd get something else like Lucky Charms over Fruit Loops or something, or I ate it, but to me, my memory, or it seems like my grandparents' cereal. Like they always had it there, so it reminds me of like spending summers there. But that's another one that seems to be big to people, but to me, it's not as big. Now, this is an interesting one. This is a very light example, but I thought I'd bring it up and talk about the other ones. People are noticing color changes. I can't tell you off the top which one is the correct one in our reality. Is it red above blue or blue above red? But according to enthusiasts, they're seeing such color changes, like the Pepsi logo swapping and the chevron. See, I don't know on this one. Arby's. I cannot remember for the life of me. I've literally ate at Arby's maybe 20 times in my life. Like I haven't ate there that many times, but this is one that people are saying before it was a lowercase, now it's a uppercase. So now here I talked about this earlier, the dash. I'm not sure which one is in our reality. I think it's the one on the right, but people remember it differently. And this is an example of such a minute detail that maybe our brain, because of we see it's two larger words that we just assume that there's going to be a dash there. All right, this one's a huge one. Now, this one's not to me. I honestly just don't remember. I it could have been either way in my memory, but there's some people that are animate. It is spelled one way versus the other. So, honestly, how do you remember it? I believe it is the one on the right that is the correct one, and the one on the left is how people remember it. So we're going to get through a few more of these, and then we're going to talk about, I just want to talk about the whole dimensional thing, what I kind of know. So 4, here's an interesting one, because I grew up with a lot of gearheads, and so you would think gearheads would not get this wrong, but yeah, in our reality currently, there is a little curly Q on the F, but in certain people's memories, there is none, and that's fascinating. Small details, real small details, but it makes it look. You know why I think people would remember this, especially the guy's guy, is because that little curly Q kind of makes it feminine, kind of makes it girly, and very interesting. It's also a 6. All of a sudden, a 6. That's very interesting. I just realized that now. That's something that I noticed earlier, is that people are saying, an example I can give off the top of my head is the Applebee's logo has changed, and now the A and the P at the beginning of the word apple is blended to make what looks like a 6. And so people, I'm not religious. I'm not going to get into that. That's a giant can of words right there. But yeah, I mean, that is a 6. All right, here's a good one. I thought he did. I thought Mr. Moneybags had a monocle, but in our reality, he does not have a monocle. And these are things that you can find and look, and this simple searching, and yeah, I'm not blown away by this one, but is that because we just have that classic image? Mr. Peanut. Mr. Peanut has the top hat and a monocle. So are we combining the two memories into one? People remembering Mr. Moneybags with a monocle, but he does not. All right, here's an interesting one. Interview with the vampire or interview with a vampire? I think it was interview with a vampire is what I said a bunch growing up, talking about it when it came out. And it's kind of funny how big this, look at this now. I don't know if this would be as popular now, just looking at that screenshot. So, but yeah, I mean, what do you remember? I think it's A. So we're going to get a few more of these. Cheez-Its. Cheez-Its. I think people just say it because it's easier. I actually have a box of Cheez-It. Cheez-It. See, it doesn't sound right. Cheez-It. I have a box of Cheez-It. Maybe it's because you're eating more than one, so your brain makes it automatically plural. But yeah, I mean, I have a box of Cheez-It sitting right across from me, and yeah, I remember saying Cheez-Its. I don't remember reading Cheez-Its, but I've said Cheez-Its a billion times. What else we got? Oh, this one's a pretty big one. Yeah, this is one of the larger ones. Mirror, mirror on the wall, who's the fairest of them all? That's what majority of people always are remembering, but in our reality, it's magic mirror on the wall, who's the fairest of them all? Now, I researched the mirror, mirror just a teeny bit, and the mirror, mirror saying is actually way older and goes way, 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 way back. And so I guess it was a saying that mothers would tell their children long before Disney ever made a movie. So it may just be some sort of Oh, bred in consciousness that we all, but I remember people saying it. I remember people saying it in movies, mirror, mirror on the wall. And I have I'm gonna have to check that out, but I have a video game called the Wolf Among Us by Telltale Games. It's kind of an interactive kind of make your own story to some degree. It's more like direct your story, but yeah, there's a part where it's all based in fairy tales, and there's a part where the main character talks to the magic mirror. And I'm gonna have to look into that now. I want to see what he says because I think he has to say the thing to ask it a question. So I'm gonna have to look into that. So that's an interesting one that people are remembering differently. So a way you can look at this is if you are remembering it one way versus another, you could call yourself an inhabitant of universe, or Earth A versus Earth B, or come up with some new Earth versus old Earth. Now, here's one that I've seen this movie a zillion times, and I've heard people talking about that the color of this van is new to them. And I've also seen cases to where they say the van itself is entirely new and different. And I specifically remember the blue van. I've seen this movie, so it's got to be one of my most favorite movies of all time. The trilogy, and I remember the blue Volkswagen. Now, I don't have it within the strip, but Volkswagen logo itself right there in the middle is something that has changed according to Mandela Effect contributors. That's, I guess, a good way to put it, is that there's a slot in between the V and the W now, and that there never has been a slot in their memory. And that is such a small thing that I think that's easy for the brain just to kind of wipe over, but I can't say for certain. None of this I can say for certain. All right, Sex in the City, Sex and the City is what it's really called, but everyone said Sex in the City. So, or Sex and the City, I don't even know, but I remember people saying it the way that is incorrect a billion times. I never personally even seen it. I've barely ever talked about it, but this is one that I've, growing up in the United States, have been brainwashed with. All right, here's an interesting one. Yeah, I'm not sure which one is the right one. I believe the one on the left is the correct one, but Pikachu had, at one point, supposedly had black on his tail, and now he doesn't. And I never was into Pokemon, but again, with the whole peripheral society thing, I know who he is, what he looks like extensively, and yeah, one of them just looks weird. All right, this one's an interesting one to me. This is one of the ones that sticks out. Charles Schultz, spelled Schultz. He's the artist of the Peanuts, Charlie Brown, Snoopy, all that famous. It is in our reality no T. It is spelled Schulz. And this is an example of where his name is listed twice. Let's see if I can find where it's the second time. Because I found an example of another newspaper that in the heading spells it wrong, but within the actual article spells it correctly. Here it is. So in this one, in this article, they spell it incorrectly. So is this just our media misspelled his name, just assuming that it had a T, and that because of that, we all think that? Or was this the Mandela Effect change? Good grief. Okay, this is one that sticks out to me. Shazam, a movie in the 90s starring Sinbad. It never happened. I don't remember the movie case. I don't remember really the movie at all. It's just real fuzzy stuff. But man, I vaguely remember him being in a really terribly acted comedy about him being a genie called Shazam. This is one's a weird one, but the movie never even happened. And he's even parodied it recently on some other YouTuber channel talking about it. And yeah, this is actually one that I vaguely remember. But can't say for certain. All right, so here we get into kind of bigger ones that have changed. This is um, oh wow, dang, lost it. Oh, Agatha Christie. And in this reality, she disappeared for 10 days and then was found. And in people's memories, she disappeared and never came back. So there's a difference. The Lindbergh baby is another one, disappeared. In some people's reality, never was found. But in this reality, somebody killed the Lindbergh baby. Now, this is one of the bigger ones for me because at the time, I don't know, I don't even know, but I was preteen, I think, when this happened, pre-teenage years, and Tiananmen Square, and there was a protest, and in my memory, and I remember a bunch of people talking about it because they said that this man standing in this photo was ran over by the tanks, and it was the most horrific thing that they've ever seen on television, and everyone was talking about it. It was all over the place. It was in my school, teachers were talking about it. I specifically remember, because at the time I was really into the special effects of monster movies and scary movies and how that stuff gets made. So like I was really getting into kind of the morbid, weird kind of side of life at that time. And it really stuck on my head because I'm like, man, you don't see real stuff on TV. It's always fake makeup blood and stuff like that. So I just remember that. But in our reality, he walked away, and there's actually, I should have got that. That's a great footage because it's so, in our reality, people come over, grab him, and walk him away. But I remember, I didn't see it myself. I remember everyone talking. I remember my dad talking about it. I remember neighbors, friends. I remember everyone talking about how it was the craziest thing they ever saw because that tank just ran over that guy. But he was not ran over. All right, a couple more. People are remembering New Zealand on the east or west side of Australia. Now, I don't have any remembrance of this. I know New Zealand is by Australia, but I couldn't tell you. I assumed it was on the east side, but I can't remember for sure. But people remember it on the west side, on the left side, but in our reality, it is on the right side. And certain people remember it northern, closer to Papua New Guinea. So, yeah. And then to end this little part of the pictures, and then I kind of just want to talk real quick about the CERN, what's going on at CERN, and then I just want to end this with a discussion by a very interesting individual. So we don't got too much longer, but a little bit more. But yeah, where do you remember us living? I remember us being told we live on the outskirts of our solar system, over here on it's one of the Sagittarius or something, and but we're now being told in our reality that we're closer to the middle of the Milky Way. And that's an interesting facet right there, because yeah, I'm not a cosmologist, but I'm pretty sure I remember being told that we are on this outer arm of the outside of our universe, or galaxy, I should say. So I believe that's it. Yeah, that's it. So CERN, what is going on at CERN? What is CERN? What the heck is going on? Let's check that out. What is a hadron collider? What is it? What are they? What are they freaking accelerating at unfathomable speeds? Well, let's go see what CERN says. So at CERN, the European Organization for Nuclear Research, physicists and engineers are probing the fundamental structure of the universe. They use the world's largest and most complex scientific instruments to study the basic constituents of matter, the fundamental particles. The particles are made to collide together at close to speed of light. The process gives the physicists clues about how the particles interact and provides insights into the fundamental laws of nature. The instruments used at CERN are purpose-built particle accelerators and detectors. Accelerators boost beams of particles to high energies before the beams are made to collide with each other with stationary targets. Detectors observe and record the results of these collisions. Founded in 1954, the CERN laboratory sits astride the Franco-Swiss border near Geneva. It was one of Europe's first joint ventures and now has 22 member states. I've heard people say that it is built upon a place that was once believed to be one of the gates or something to the underworld as well. So man, when you jump into the rabbit hole of the esoteric kind of maybe occult / witchcraft / Satanism side of CERN, it gets really crazy. I mean, just what they're doing, just the stuff that they tell you they're doing is pretty mind-blowing, but most people are so used to just kind of glossing over science that they really don't think much about it. But so that's basically kind of like what their purpose is. But let's just real quick, hadron collider. Okay, let's go over what a hadron collider is. See, I was looking at tests and date for certain things, and it's fascinating. All right, here we go. So the Large Hadron Collider, the LHC, is the world's largest and most powerful particle accelerator. It first started up on the 10th of September, 2008. Now, this is interesting because I believe that's 2 years before the Mandela Effect was coined. But remember that date, 2008. And remains the latest addition to CERN's accelerator complex. The LHC consists of a 27-kilometer ring of superconducting magnets with a number of accelerating structures to boost the energy of particles along the way. Inside the accelerator, two high-energy particle beams travel at close to speed of light before they are made to collide. The beams travel in opposite directions in separate beam pipes, two tubes kept at ultra-high vacuum. They are guided around the accelerator ring by a strong magnetic field maintained by superconducting electromagnets. Now, I've heard people state, I don't have the facts, I don't know for sure, but I'm sure it gets hot, but I've heard people talk about that again, these are Mandela Effect people. I've heard that the heat from the electromagnetism is as hot as the sun that they produce, and that there are images out there. I can't speak to the validity of these images, but I know that there are images out there of cloud formations forming above the Hadron Collider at the CERN complex. So, I mean, what are they doing? They're literally tampering with the fabric of space and time. And I know there are scientists that have tried to stop this, but were unsuccessful. And I believe there was one that even proposed a lawsuit or put forth a lawsuit and was unsuccessful. So, I mean, what they are doing is major stuff, but I just want to explain what this is. The electromagnets are built from coils of special electrical cables that operate in a superconducting state, efficiently conducting electricity without resistance or loss of energy. This requires chilling the magnets to minus 271.3 degrees Celsius, a temperature colder than outer space. Then they must get really hot if they have to keep it that cold. For this reason, much of the accelerator is connected to a distribution system of liquid helium, which cools the magnets as well as the other supply devices. Thousands of magnets of different varieties and sizes are used to direct the beams around the accelerator. These include 1,232 dipole magnets, 15 meters in length, which bend the beams, and 392 quadrupole magnets, each 5 to 7 meters long, which focus the beams. Just prior to collision, another type of magnet is used to squeeze the particle closer to increase the chances of collisions. The particles are so tiny that the task of making them collide is akin to firing two needles 10 kilometers apart with such precision that they meet halfway. So what are they doing? Why are they doing that? What they are essentially doing is trying to recreate the instance after the Big Bang. And by doing that, they hope to unlock more of the fundamental boundaries and keys and answers of what the actual universe is comprised of. And by doing that, then they may be able to figure out why, where, how it all started, essentially, in a nutshell. Again, I am not that smart. I really use the crutch of the internet to help propel my information gathering and obtaining. So this is just stuff I find fascinating. So what is this? The God particle. This is what one of the main things that they're trying to do is detect, which according to them they did, the Higgs boson particle, which has been termed the God particle. And the Higgs boson particle is essentially the particle that helps to keep space-time and gravity adhere to each other. It keeps it all solid somehow, for lack of a better term. And so that was one of the main things they're doing. Now, what are they doing, right? What tests are they doing? Now, this is where it gets interesting, because you really have to be a freaking, see, they had a place where you could actually look at the schedule. Like, I can only assume you really have to be some sort of physicist to really, oh, where's the schedule? I remember seeing a schedule a while ago. But okay, so I looked into, there was something that happened in 2016 in October or something. I remember seeing if there was a test here, test schedule. Oh, man, you can get into some crazy stuff with CERN. And why do they have a symbolic statue of a god in their courtyard when science really does has made like their motto to basically keep science and religion as far away as possible. So symbolism, maybe, I don't know, but I made a video on the strange cult, quote unquote, sacrifice that occurred there. That was here, some stuff. So I'm trying to find the schedules just to kind of show you guys real quick what it looks like what tests they're doing, because it's not just, there's multiple tests that are going on by multiple countries in multiple areas around this whole thing. Experiments, I think this is it here. Yeah, okay, so here we go. Experiments and facilities on this right side. Look at all these. These are all different experiments and facilities with their different names. Alpha, LHCb, ARMS, LHCF. Just go down. ASA, CUSA, Atlas, ATRAP, Awake, Base, CAST, Cloud, CMS, Compass. So let's click on one of these. What's Awake? I believe I heard about this one. I think this was like one of their first tests. Awake explores the use of plasma to accelerate particles high energies over distances. See, all right, we're not going to get into all this because I'm just about done, and I just want to end this and talk a little bit more about this really interesting individual. And this whole CERN stuff gets really into, I mean, you can get deep into it. People are seeing sixes within these. I mean, you could, yes, if you take the longest ones, peel out sixes, but then you have to deal with this one here. That will throw everything off. So, I don't know. I can't tell you for certain, but it gets really deep into it. Okay, real quickly, this is an interesting video I found where a man found, using Google Trends, somebody type in the word, well, not somebody, we'll get into that when I get there, but it triggered the actual system to register some sort of activity of the keywords Mandela Effect combined all the way back to June 2004, at least 6 years, I believe, before it was coined. And what was it? So, all right, anyway, let's skip that part. Let's get into that. All right, so June 2004 is when this man found this. I went and did this. I was like, okay, I got to see this for myself. So I did what he did, all right? He typed, and I can't see, but it's on the footage if you go back. I'm going to have all the links of everything I've used down below so you guys can check out later at the end. I guess I could have put that in now, but I'm a little not used to doing this for a while. And yeah, so June 2004 is when he found Mandela Effect. And I did it, and there's a little blip down there, and I got a different result. In September 2004, one click on Mandela. Now, is that one person? I don't believe so. In the video, the guy is saying one person, but if you click on this, interest over time is what it represents. Numbers represent search interests relative to the highest point on the chart for the given region and time. A value of 100 is the peak popularity for the term. A value of 50 means that the term is half as popular. Likewise, a score of 0 means the term was less than 1% as popular as peak. So, that gets into popularity. Was it popularity? Blah, blah, blah. To me, what's interesting, it may be important, it may not be important, is the fact that there were searches going on for this back in September 2004. So is that evidence of time travel? Is that evidence of this whole system being set up prior to either come into fruition, or the whole thing being set up prior to be a hoax by, who knows, a secret society or by a group of scientists? Was this all planned out? Has this been what they wanted? I just found that interesting, and I wanted to throw that into it because I thought it was interesting that I got a different result than this chap here. Okay, so lastly, getting into this dude. Let's see, what did I do with his images? And we're going to play the audio. I have some audio, just a couple minutes audio, a few minutes audio from a video that this dude's on. I got to find what I did with it all. Hold on a sec. Where is it all? That's not it. That's the music I was thinking of using. Here. All right, this guy here. You won't believe this. Where's his image? These are all the images I was going to use for it. Oh, where is it? Where is he? Where is he? Where is he? Here he is. All right. This gentleman right here, 13 years old, Max Loughan. I'm going to play some footage or some audio from him about what he thinks about space-time, multiverse, and Mandela Effect. And I'm going to have links for him. This kid is not an idiot. He's 13 years old. He invented in the boiler room of his basement a device to capture and harness wasted electromagnetism form of energy within his environment and transform it into a producible energy to charge his batteries and devices of his home. He essentially made a zero-point device where he was able to take energy from wasted nothing that's just sitting around and turn it into consumable energy and not wasted. It's not wasted because it's already using wasted energy. This kid did this, 13-year-old, and he's done a crap more. This guy is fascinating. So real quick, I just wanted to play just a little bits about from this video of him and what he thinks about this. Because I find it hard to, it's the egos within scientists and the people in charge, how they tell us everything is fact and this and that. And I find it refreshing to hear possible explanations of what is going on by people that haven't been stinking influenced for years, for decades in the system. He's new in this system, so he doesn't have the influence that most of us listening now has had jammed down our throats our entire lifetime, no matter how free we think we are. So I take a lot of inspiration and I take what he's saying to heart because I really believe deep down that this young gentleman here is one of the most sincerest scientists on the globe today. All right, so enough jibber jabber. This is Max. Oh, hold on, I gotta. See, I'm not a professional. I gotta do playback devices. Hold on, I gotta hook up my speaker. Man, it's been so long. I had it all connected, but I guess the battery wasn't charged long enough. So he's an American. He's from, I believe he's from Nevada. And because I was curious, I was like, is this guy like live next door to MIT? That's another thing. I believe he took his first MIT course when he was 10 years old. All right, so I may not be able to. Here, let's have to disable. Oh, come on. I may not be able to get this. I may crash the what thing. All right, give me 2 seconds. It worked right before the stream, of course. Of course. Okay, well, I might not be able to get it. Dang. All right, well, I'll just have to use these speakers. All right, so hold on. This is Max. I'm going to stop screen sharing so I can make sure the audio is listened to. All right, here we go. This is Max. Listen to what this gentleman has said. Right, so just like quantum physics and superposition, everything can be in a state of either positive and negative at the same time, rather than positive or negative, as we know in our mechanical classical world here. But that means that there's an infinite number of parallel universes in our multiverse. Just move that there. And Did this work? All right, yes, I'm back. All right, so big gap there. I just wanted to wrap it up real quick with the words of this guy. Another few minutes, and I literally was just about to wrap it up, and of course my computer had to crash. All right, so real quick, if I can get it. If not, oh well. Let's wrap it up. So let's see if it plays. So this again is Max. Really interesting.
For if there are other universes, they're next to ours, and this actually relates to my theory of the Mandela Effect and how the particle accelerator altered the weight of one electron and therefore destroyed our universe and shifted us into the universe that's directly next to it, and therefore things are different in this universe.
So you believe that this thing that some people call the Mandela Effect is actually real?
Oh, it's absolutely real.
Can you describe what it is for people who have never heard it before?
Sure. So the Mandela Effect is the effect of some people thought that Nelson Mandela died at a certain time, and other people remember it as a different time. And this goes for a lot of other things. You know, Star Wars, classic videos, Mirror, Mirror on the Wall. Everybody knows that. Well, if you actually go back to the original film, it's not Mirror, Mirror on the Wall. It's Magic Mirror on the Wall. And some people actually...
Which, of course, it's not.
It's not,
in
right.
The reality I grew up in.
Right, exactly. And, I mean, some people in this reality, I guess, maybe didn't make it from our last reality, I'm thinking. I'm still trying to figure out why they don't remember it. And some people do. But anyway, though, that is the Mandela Effect, and we are living in an alternate expansion of our universes. Even in my own scientific notes, I've found rewritten signatures and things that are a little bit different from originally what I wrote.
So how did that actually happen? Let's take your notebook, or let's take Mirror, Mirror on the Wall, like an old film, animated film. How did it actually change?
Well, it never changed. We changed. You see, we were moving relative to our universe, and then our universe destroyed. So now the universe started to move, or I guess our parallel universes, our multiverse started to move parallel to us because we were out of alignment, and that just destroyed everything. So technically, the universe didn't change, we did. For infinity down the line from our original timeline, here's ours. And
okay, so real quick, what happened? What he believes, his theory, he doesn't know for certain, because you'll never be able to know for certain everything, but his theory is that they shifted the weight of one molecule or one electron, and that literally destroyed our universe and made our universe implode. And this is an old theory that I read about time travel as well, that time travel to the past or to the future may be impossible, because if you imagine our timeline as a bucket that is filled with water all the way to the top, and that water represents matter, all the matter in the universe, if you introduce just one, it's at the point that it's at the very, very top, to where one drop in will make the water start spilling, and thus an analogy for destroying the universe. And that's what he really thinks happened. He thinks that somehow a weight got changed and it destroyed it, either too much or too little. It screwed up the actual consistency of matter within our entire universe. And what happened was, instead of the universe just exploding and us dying and everything ending, our consciousness was moved from one timeline to the next timeline. So let's get into the next thing he has to say. It's just another couple minutes. This guy is really interesting.
Yeah, infinity down the line from our original timeline, here's ours. And then, of course, this timeline is only moving forward because, well, the expansion of infinite number of realities behind it. But what happened was we made this universe sort of out of balance, and our universe...
Because of the collider, the super collider?
Yeah, we altered the weight of a single electron, which I believe shifted us into a parallel universe, considering that we caused a chain reaction that could have catastrophically destroyed our universe. I mean, even when we thought about starting it, we thought our universe would implode, and then it didn't, and we're like, oh, it's okay. Well, maybe it did implode. We just instantly got shifted to another universe.
And that's your belief?
Right, in my belief. Of course, this is just a theory, and it's still being developed.
Okay.
But yeah, maybe in that infinitely small moment of time, we were instantly shifted.
Could it also?
Yeah, and you know, if you kind of apply the whole Occam's razor to the whole wild side of this, what he's saying actually has some of the most validity to me and feels the most right. So just a couple more.
Go ahead.
So this universe was destroyed, and then again, here's our progression of infinite expansion of parallel universes. And here's ours. When this one just destroyed itself, and as I said, there's an infinite number of parallel universes. That means there's an infinite possibility that everything contained within our infinite range happened, existed, will happen. For example, there's a reality where possibly maybe this world didn't even occur. Maybe there's a reality where our universe instantly started and then destroyed itself. There's an infinite number of possibilities. But
Which
however,
is such an incredible thing to try to wrap your head around, right? It's almost impossible.
yeah, there's
Just the word infinity is almost impossible to really
and
completely
then
understand.
again, there are higher levels of infinity, as you'll see in videos.
Higher levels of infinity. So
Yeah,
infinity is not just infinity. There's variations
there's
on that
higher
theme.
levels of infinity. There's smaller infinities, bigger, larger infinities. It's hard to wrap your mind around that there is something larger than everything. So the funny thing
Well, I mean,
about,
do you feel like you have it figured out?
well, I think I do, yeah. But then again, this is all just a theory, and since when can you prove a theory about infinite universes and infinity and alternate realities? When can you prove that? So do I think that I know it? I think that I might have some basic, very, very basic idea, even gist, of what possibly can be happening. But then again, this is just theoretical physics, and even in the title, it's theoretical.
Right.
I don't actually know everything that's happening. There's never a way that I can. So really, it's just a matter of how much do I think that I can explain the unexplainable.
See, to me, that is so refreshing because, especially with high production documentaries, it's essentially everything is just told to you as if it's just straight fact. And you never hear, it's rare, but I guess every once in a while, but you just don't hear that it's like, hey, I just don't know, but these are interesting ideas. Look into this guy. He is very intriguing and he is going to change the world. He's already changing the world. And according to him, he's not in this for money or any of the weird stuff. The way he says it too, he's like, it's like he just doesn't understand the motivation between these weirdos. Because his sincere, I believe it's true sincere, and we'll see how it is after puberty, is that he wants to change the world and that he's here to change the world. And he doesn't care about money and all fame and accolades. And he's here to bring the future just a little closer to now. So, okay, one last bit, I think, here, and then we're going to call it.
So universes that are right next to each other, and as I said, these are infinitely close yet infinitely far away from each other. We have our universes. And the farther away a universe is, the more different it is because of each individual event. Now, the distance and amount of universes between these two lines is infinite.
Okay, that's a really interesting point. So essentially, if you can imagine our timeline on a table, like a line, and there's just an infinite number of lines next to each other, the closer lines are going to be closer to our actual reality. And the farther away you get from our reality, there'll be similarities, but they'll slowly start to get different and different and different and different and different until they're completely foreign. So that's a really important point.
It's kind of crazy. You can't draw it or visualize it. It's just infinite between each line, and then an infinite line between their lines, and lines and lines and lines and lines, infinite over and over again. But anyway, somewhere down the infinity over here, we have a parallel universe, right? And in this parallel universe, maybe it's completely different. Like everything is completely different. Like maybe our entire existence is nothing and never will happen, but maybe maybe time's running backwards, or maybe everything is slightly off in a way, like universes aren't created from nuclear reactions, more just form, and then nuclear reactions occur, which then create more universes.
So essentially, yeah, he's talking about even though we're getting out into the farthest distances of infinity, and as I said, our universe will be different. We still have parallel universes to where our universe is running concurrent with it in this crazy wave pattern of infinity. And so, yeah, you're going to get on those farther cases, you're going to get wild stuff like time may run backwards. All right, so this is the last bit, and then we're going to call it.
And even as I speak this, my very speaking of this is creating an infinite number of universes, and in one and in many of them, this is exactly possible. But,
okay, so back to, see if we can wrap this up, the Mandela Effect, and let's have at least one human being who might watch this potentially be able to understand what you're saying.
Right. So when our universe was destroyed over here.
And this was, you think, when CERN Super Collider did its experiment?
Large Hadron Collider, yeah.
Or the Hadron?
Large Hadron Collider, right.
Okay.
And so after our universe and timeline was destroyed, we were, let's zoom this in a lot, zoom, 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 and the universe that's directly next to ours, it's just directly next to ours, energy cannot be created nor destroyed, only transferred from form. But if there are an infinite number of universes, then there's 100% chance that this happened, at least maybe in another universe, maybe not ours. Then again, there's also an infinite chance that this is our universe. So if this one was eliminated, all the energy from this universe created or transferred a universe that was right next to us.
So the original universe is mirror, mirror on the wall. The transferred to universe is magic mirror on the wall.
Right, and even if you have quantum data or other things that possibly could help calculate these claims, then you'll find that there is a fluctuation pattern of which our universe is on a similar plane. So if this is our plane, there's a universe in this plane, which means that this is a larger dip and this is a smaller dip. So that way there's a fluctuation in our reality of actually things that are real to us but are different in other realities. And there's a consistent fluctuation, and I think this fluctuation is known as the Mandela Effect for some things, and a lot of things are the same, but other things are, very different. So in this universe, it's pretty much exactly.
I believe what he's saying about that fluctuation is what we are experiencing. We are experiencing that fluctuation. The sensation of remembering it differently. I believe that's what he's referring to.
Almost exactly the same as ours, for the fact that we're all here, almost, and that everything that we see is pretty much the same.
What do you mean almost?
Almost as in, like, I don't know. There's an infinite number of possibilities, so there has to be at least an infinite possibility that.
Essentially what he's meaning is to him, he feels this is a real effect and it's really happening, and so then you would have to throw in, why are some people remembering it and some not? And so he is basically working out that the people that aren't remembering it, that to them it's been the same. It's always been, no, I am your father, everything. It's always been magic mirror on the wall. They're people from this new dimension, and for some reason their equivalents in the old dimension, in the old timeline, didn't make it into this one. And that's something that's like, that's a big can of worms right there. Like, why? So I think he's just not even kind of thinking about that right now. It's like one of the things that he's going to worry about, but you can tell it's clearly something that's curious because he's referenced it a few times.
Somebody on this planet is gone from that time, or maybe there is an infinite possibility that there is. But the point is that it's a parallel universe to ours. So it is not our universe. It's not ours. But.
So we are now not in the same universe that we were in when Mirror, Mirror on the Wall was a part of a film.
Well, that's what I'm theorizing, yeah.
So we're in a different universe.
Exactly, completely different universe.
Even though it looks almost otherwise completely the same.
Is exactly the same, except for that 0.00000000000000000000000 infinite number of zeros, 1%.
Yes.
Difference.
Right.
And that 1% difference is large on our scale, or even small on our scale, but it's still different enough that it's able to contain our energy, but not enough that it's the same. As I said, it's a parallel universe. It's not the same as ours. And if we have to arrive at the same time that we left, then there has to be difference. There's that fluctuation. And one of these fluctuations was maybe something different. Maybe one person decided to walk on the other side of the sidewalk, as it is uncertainty, at least in our future. I mean, if you're in a higher dimension like the fifth dimension or looking on our fourth dimension, uncertainty is just a matter of which way you're going, like a road. But to us, uncertainty doesn't happen because we can only see the present as it's happening.
Yeah. So, all right. So the way he feels reality is essentially the fabric of time and space as we are moving forward through time, and we are going throughout our job, we are waking up, we're writing books, we're fishing, whatever we're doing. It is the act of that reality being created is being propelled by the infinite number of possibilities that could have occurred behind us. So as you're walking down the street, as you're taking a left turn, behind you, you are taking all the infinite possibilities of those routes. It's just you are unaware of these because these are all different frequencies of vibrations, because that's all energy is a vibration and frequency, and these are just out of form. That's essentially, I believe, what he's getting at, and he really feels there's weight behind this. And he talks, I didn't put it into it, but he talks about, I put part of it into it. He talks about how some of his research has changed. I mean, this guy is clearly hyper intelligent, and so he's noticed weird things, and he mentions there's some personal things that he would talk to the cameraman filming or whoever that is, his dad or whoever, off camera. And so, I mean, look into this guy, look what he's done, look what he's doing, and maybe there is something to this Mandela effect. Maybe there is. Maybe there is not. Maybe we'll find out in time. Maybe we won't. So that's it for now. Gonna be looking into other strange, interesting things in the future. And yeah, I don't know what next week's going to be, but I'm planning on doing one next week. So stick around if you want. If not, it's cool. Keep researching. Keep asking questions. Please take care of yourself. Please try to take care of one another. And until next time, this is Rusty Reporter signing out. Mandela Effect. Research it. Research Max. Max Loughan. Believe it's Lougham. Look into him. Some fascinating times, people. All right, see ya.